Hello and welcome. This is Ryan Claytor, and this is my Master of Fine Arts thesis exhibition called Concatenations, Autobiography in Comics. Concatenation is a word that refers to an object that is linked, like in a chain, in a series, and I thought that was a good word to describe comics. And I'd like to take you around the gallery and show you what all there is to see. As you come in on the right-hand side, you see the abstract of my thesis statement, which is entirely hand-lettered, and likewise for the dedication here. This is the exhibition flyer and copies of the abstract of the thesis for anyone who wants to grab one. And as we come in, we see on the left-hand side here the first 16 pages for the next book in the series, And Then One Day. This is a transcribed interview with an English professor and myself, talking about topics surrounding autobiography in general, not just autobiography in comics. And as we come down this way and make our way through the original art pages, we come to a large-scale piece that I call Not From Around These Parts. This is approximately 6 feet tall. Up until recently, one of the largest scale pieces I've done. It's a single panel piece. And I'll try to show you a little closer here. And I'd like to just swing you around the gallery one time before we get going here so you can kind of get the lay of the land. Give you a quick clockwise motion here, and then back to the wall that we started with. So there are a few large-scale pieces in here, this being one of them, and this is an excerpt from And Then One Day number 6, which is the book where I interviewed different people in my life with questions about me and transcribed them into comic book form. And this particular quote I wanted to single out because my buddy Rhett here says, when Ryan first started doing comics, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, you got to be kidding me. Didn't you grow out of that crap when you were 12 years old like the rest of us? And I wanted this one to be kind of big and bold and in your face when you first enter the gallery so that the readers could kind of confront their notions surrounding comics and their preconceived ideas about comics, because they're not something you generally find in a gallery setting, but yet they're a perfectly valid medium for expressing anything that fine art can, and in my opinion they can be used as a fine art in and of themselves as well. Neil Gaiman, writer in comics, once said something to the effect of, if writing can be literature and art and pictures can be art, then why are the two of them somehow less than the sum of their parts? So I wanted you to come to that first, and right after that we see the first 4 pages from the introduction to the collected And Then One Day. And beside each of the pieces we have some hand-lettered labels as well. And as you come further to the right, you'll see hopefully an inviting couch and the 3 books in front of it. One of the pieces of feedback I got from my graduate advancement was that it was really difficult to stand at a podium and read a book for any extended period of time. So I wanted to remedy that in my thesis show. So I got some couches, some tables, and with the help of some furniture folks here at San Diego State University, created some pedestals as well for my books. And you'll see in front of them, again, hand-lettered labels for each book. And you have the collected And Then One Day, And Then One Day number 5, the sketchbook, and the most recently published one, which is And Then One Day number 6, which compiles the interviews that were done in last summer. And again, we come to another couple of large-scale pieces right here. They share a corner of the wall, and I wanted to use the architecture of the space to allow these panels to kind of talk to each other. You'll see that the character on the left is kind of looking down and to a right, and the character on the right is looking above and to the left, and they're talking to one another. Again, these are excerpts from the book, and I was able to rework the dialogue a little bit so that it sounded like they were talking to one another. On the left, you have Jenny Yoshida saying, "He wears these shorts with humongous holes out the bottom of the pocket. I couldn't believe he would wear those pants out in public." And then Rebecca responds saying, "I know, right? And have you seen his car? It's a mess and kind of smells weird." And to the right, we have the original artwork from Lucky. It's a letterpress print that I've got on my site, and this is the original artwork from that. To the right of that, another couch with the same 3 books, so that when there are throngs of people coming in here, they can all sit down and still read a book. To the right is a panel excerpt from those 16 pages I showed you at the beginning of the gallery. This is just one of them where I'm discussing with Professor Harry Polkinghorne from the Comparative Literature and English Department at San Diego State University, notions surrounding autobiography. And a lot of times people have the conception that autobiography has to be completely truthful, and I don't think that's ever the case, really. And this panel says, "I don't think autobio will ever sit on either extreme of the spectrum." And it shows you the autobiographical spectrum that I've kind of created in my mind, I suppose, and hopefully going to share it with the rest of you. And after that piece, we come to the largest piece I've ever done in my whole darn life. And this one is called "This Is Not a Span of Time." Let me back up here a little bit and hopefully not run into anything while I'm doing so, so I can get the whole thing in frame. Along the bottom, in French, it says, "Ceci n'est pas un intervalle du temps," which means this is not a span of time, or this is not an interval of time. And on the top, you can see that it's an intertextual reference to Magritte's Treachery of Images painting, where he paints a pipe, and on the bottom, in French, he writes, "This is not a pipe." Now that painting is talking about the reference between images and words, and if you think about it, really his painting is not a pipe, it's just pigment on canvas. But where most of us have seen that is through art history textbooks or in slides. So if you think about it, really it's not a pipe anymore, it's a print of a scan, of a slide, of a picture, of a reproduction of that painting. So really, the further on in time you get, the more true that statement becomes. And this is my comics reference to that Magritte painting, and I wanted it to also make people aware of the fact that comics artists can be aware of and are aware of the fine art world and can respond to it just as the fine art world has responded to comics, folks like Roy Lichtenstein and the likes. And then finally, the last wall has my yet incomplete comic book quilt that is a narrative featuring my grandmother and myself growing up together and kind of her progression through old age. And I'm still working on that right now, trying to get that finished up. But that ends the exhibition. So I hope you enjoyed the tour of the place, and maybe I'll even see a few of you guys for the reception. All right, thank you very much.